Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. By now you all know me, but if not, my name's Mario. I put out videos primarily on clinical research, and this is going to be a clinical research video, and this is going to be about everything you ever wanted to know about source data verification, or SDV. Why am I putting out this video? Well, one of my viewers requested it. So, as always, if there's a topic you want to hear about, just list it down in the comments, and I will consider putting out a future video. The one thing I do want to say is what goes hand in hand with source data verification is queries and query writing, and I will put out a video on how to effectively generate queries as a clinical research associate. So without further ado, let's talk about source data verification. What is source data verification? Why do we do it? What's the history of source data verification? What's the future? We'll cover all of that. So let's start with what is source data verification. At its core, source data verification is really easy to understand. As the site is entering data into their case report forms, this could be an electronic case report form or it could be a paper case report form, and you need to go and figure out, as the CRA or clinical research associate, where is the site getting their data from to enter into the case report forms. So, and is what they're entering accurate? So does it match the original source? That is at its core what source data verification is. But let's step back for a minute and just think about why we do source data verification. Well, there are three main aspects that we need to consider here for source data verification. The first is per ICH E6, one of the elements that we're required to ensure is upheld is the well-being of human subjects. We also want to make sure that the protocol, the IRB approved protocol, is being complied with. And finally, we want to make sure that the data entered is accurate. And source data verification helps in all these different elements. We can make sure that the subject's well-being is being protected by ensuring things such as serious adverse events are not missed, so that they are entered in and reviewed by the sponsor appropriately. So we can ensure the well-being of human subjects. We can ensure that the protocol is being complied to, because if we look at the data, we know whether it's collected or not. And is it collected as it's supposed to be per the IRB approved protocol? That's another element. And then obviously, source data verification will allow you to look at the accuracy of the data, and is the data being submitted to the sponsor accurate? And does it meet the ALCOA C standard? ALCOA C, for those of you that don't know, is a simple standard. It basically is what we live by in clinical research. It says that all things entered into source need to be attributable. You know who's the person who's doing it. They need to be legible, so they can't be hard to read. It can't be in sloppy handwriting. This is a little bit easier with things that are electronic. They need to be original, so they need to be an original, available in their original form. They need to be contemporaneous, and that means they need to be current, and they need to be accurate, and finally, they need to be complete. So that is the ALCOA C standard, and that's what we are checking for, that everything meets this ALCOA C standard and all the data that's submitted to the sponsor is accurate. So that is what source data verification is, and a little bit about why we do it. So let's talk about historically what the FDA required for source data verification. So in the original guidance from the FDA, it was mandated that 100% of source was verified. So this standard is called the 100% SDV. You'll hear a lot of people just mention the 100% SDV, like, are we doing 100% SDV? And this comes from historical FDA guidance, where it was told to sponsors that they needed to do 100% source data verification. Now I say historical because things have changed. Now, some sponsors still do require 100% source data verification, but in the current world in 2022, we have moved toward some elements of risk-based monitoring. You'll hear many sponsors talk about risk-based monitoring. And the reason for this is several studies that were done over the past several years. And what was found is interesting. It's found that 97% of data that's entered is accurate. So what 100% SDV was doing was essentially allowing you to target that 3% of incorrect data. But oftentimes that 3% of incorrect data wasn't necessarily all data critical to the trial. So they say, look, we're spending tons of money, tons of effort to catch 3% of mistakes, and out of that 3%, not all of them are critical to the study. And risk-based monitoring gives you a different approach where you are really looking for those critical elements and making sure those are correct. So what are the critical elements of the study? Often these are inclusion, exclusion being met, AEs, SAEs, con meds, things of that nature, but it'll vary from study to study, but you're looking for the most critical points. And this really came down to the cost of completing 100% SDV. If you look at the clinical study budgets, oftentimes about 25% of the overall cost and the budget is allocated towards source data verification. And if we are really not improving the quality of the data significantly, is the cost worth it? And this is where the guidance came in. We really want to be checking those critical points, but spending 25% budget to catch less than 3% of mistakes and a fraction of those which are probably critical, it might not be worthwhile. And some sponsors still do 100% SDV, but just know you might hear the term risk-based monitoring. And this is what risk-based monitoring is about. It's more of looking at the critical elements. Just know things in clinical research don't happen particularly quickly. There was guidance from way back in the day. I believe I read the first guidance around risk-based monitoring from a document around 2009. And risk-based monitoring is now only becoming big currently. So there's a long duration from when the FDA puts out a guidance document to when it's actually implemented. And part of this is sponsors need to change their ways and figure out how to comply. And there's some cost short term with just changing your systems. You may need to update documents, update systems. A lot of the risk-based monitoring required EDC or electronic data capture systems that only allow you to SDV certain fields. So it takes time from when you put out that guidance document, from when the FDA puts out the guidance document to when things are implemented. So that's all the history of source data verification, what it is, and some of the differences between 100% source data verification and a risk-based monitoring approach where you'll be looking at some selection of different case report forms and verifying that the data from those is accurate. So let me talk about the practical. As a clinical research associate, how should you conduct source data verification? So this is how I teach people to do it, and this is why I think study coordinators make great clinical research associates, because as a study coordinator, you're usually going in with blank fields and trying to fill them out. You're trying to find the data to match it. Let's just take a simple thing. Let's say, let's take a hematology lab value. So let's say hemoglobin. We, as study coordinators, look at the date and then go into an EMR or go into whatever system we have and then look for that hemoglobin value from that day. So let's just say January 10th, 2022, subject had a hemoglobin of 10.0. So we look for January 10th, and then we look for what the hemoglobin subject on that value is from that day. And then we enter it into the case report form. So when you're monitoring, what you should really be doing is that process. You should assume that the fields are blank. And if you were the study coordinator, what would you be entering? One of the things that I often see out in the field is people back verifying. So they'll see the value, and then they'll go searching for something that matches that value. And the problem with this is you've created a bias. You want to find that value. So with newer CRA, sometimes it'll be a value that matches, but it was on a different date, and they didn't capture that date difference because they didn't go in with that mindset of okay, this is a blank field. If I were the study coordinator, how would I enter this data? Or the data manager, how would I enter the data? And that's just a critical part of being a clinical research associate. This is especially important in oncology because I go through patient records pretending to be the study coordinator. I look for those adverse events that may have been missed. I look for those serious adverse events that may have been missed. I look at those critical lab values that may have been missed. What did the study coordinator miss? And now if you're going into the EDC system and saying, oh, the site's AEs reported at this and this and this and this, and just saying, okay, this is in EDC, this is in source, and back checking, you're going to miss those various things that the site also missed, because now you're going in with your bias of saying, I just want to confirm these things. But you really need to go in with the mindset of, I am the study coordinator. What would I have entered in this field? And what I entered, what I would have entered, does this match what the study coordinator at the site did? So that's how you effectively do source data verification. I think the final thing that I'll talk about in this video is Esource. Now, I mentioned earlier in this video that things don't happen very quickly in terms of guidance documents and being implemented. There was a guidance document that came out in September of 2013. And before I jump into what I covered, I realized I didn't cover FDA guidance documents, but for those of you that don't know, it's basically updates to the regulations that are not technically formal. They call them guidance to industry. So if you type into Google guidance to industry electronic source, you'll probably get the PDF of the guidance to industry document from September of 2013. And this is actually a great way to learn clinical research. Go in and read the guidance documents, because even if you're looking at 2009, 2013, like those things are now coming to fruition. And so it's a great way. So in September of 2013, there was a guidance document put out about electronic source, and or Esource for short. Is you'll hear a lot about Esource, and it's still being developed in many places. But Esource is one of the potential ways there could be data entered directly into the electronic system. So you put this in place where instead of capturing data, however it's being captured to the site, it can go straight into the source document. So, and then the eSource on the other end, the sponsor would have access. So that saves some of the source data verification steps. It doesn't solve everything, because again, you want to make sure that you are reviewing any other documents the site may have. For example, eSource will only be one element. They may still have their own electronic medical records, et cetera, that you'd want to be reviewing. But if the documents exist in their original form within eSource and sponsors have electronic access, that will be a huge time saver. And you'll hear about companies trying to implement this. Like I said, this was guidance from September of 2013, but there are solutions. They're not ubiquitous throughout the industry. That's the same with the 100% SDV versus the targeted SDV that's done as part of a risk-based monitoring model. All right, so that is all you need to know about source data verification. Like I said, the next video is likely going to be query writing, and I will put out a short video about how to effectively write queries. Just a reminder, if you haven't done so already, please smash that like button, subscribe to my channel, and if you have any topics you'd like me to cover in future videos, just list them down in the comment. Thank you for watching.